Hey guys, this is Matt for Creative, and I just finished watching Ahsoka for the second time. Ahsoka episode 5. There will be spoilers. It's not going to be big on spoilers, but it's just this episode and the previous episode were probably the two most Star Wars feeling episodes in forever. And I do want to say at the very beginning, give Dave Filoni a trilogy. Give him whatever he wants. Give him whatever TV show he wants, because the passion that he puts into this and the passion that he brings out of everybody he works with is just, it's amazing. And he knows what fans want. He also knows what just makes a good story, what makes a good TV show. There are so many things that just kind of work with this. Of course, everything has its flaws, everything is not perfect, but what he's putting out here is the best thing that I've seen in years. And again, I've talked about Andor as well. That is more of like a drama piece that happens to be set in the Star Wars universe. It's a beautiful TV show, but that is a drama first, Star Wars second feeling show. This is a Star Wars show at the very heart and soul of it, and it's beautiful, it's fun. Episode 4 was full of action, and it just worked really well as its own individual story, but then it left on this cliffhanger where Ahsoka, for some reason, and we'll find out what, she's in the world between worlds, and she sees Anakin, played by Hayden Christensen. And you know what? I really wish I had made a video last week. That was the perfect way to end that episode. And I want to say this because there was a chance that episode 5 would not have been as great as everybody thought it was. It was as great as a lot of us thought it was. But there was a chance it wasn't. And for an entire week, and it's good because this is released in not all at once, so it is a weekly show, and now it's an hourly show. So Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we get to all enjoy this together. So for a week, we were able to hypothesize what was going on, what their interaction could be, and what this actually meant. And for that week, we all got to make it our perfect idea of what this should be. So leaving it with like a tiny little tinge of just there, and it could be literally that could mean literally anything. It was like the perfect ending, because again, this could have been just a mid-episode, and it wasn't. So this episode, full of action, full of nostalgia, and not just forced nostalgia just to be nostalgic, like the Book of Boba Fett was just, oh, here's Boba Fett, here's the character that you love from years ago, he's back, kind of only in form, because that was not really Boba Fett. That's just a different character that they're trying to make a hero. It was weird. This was exactly the Clone Wars that we wished that we could have as a real life. And I would honestly think that because they did, and again, the de-aging that people said was kind of weird looking in episode 4, there's no issue. They're in a spatial plane that is, everything is different there than we would really need to see in reality. You're looking at a character where they're trying to keep it ambiguous. It looked like him. I mean, there is just an issue that people have with CGI. And this is going to be a tiny little tangent. She-Hulk, a Marvel show, an intensive CGI show because of the character, that was fine. It was perfectly fine for a TV show, and hell, even for a movie. They can always upgrade things little by little, but it was fine. This Hayden Christensen thing at the end of episode 4, it was fine. It was perfect. But you know it was even better? seeing glimpses of the Clone Wars. And if you haven't seen this episode, they really do show entire scenes from the context of Hayden Christensen, Anakin Skywalker, being not the Anakin Skywalker that died, not the person who's in those scenes, but kind of the spiritual entity that is guiding Ahsoka back through. And I'm just realizing this is kind of like one of those things where before you die, people say that you see the last, they see your life encapsulated in your key moments and then you die. But this is more like that was happening, where as a spiritual guide, this imperfect Anakin Skywalker is leading and trying to help Ahsoka move on to the next part of her life, while realizing at the very end that he is an imperfect person, and the Anakin Skywalker that we know, you kind of get that he realizes that he's not going to be himself for his entire life, and that he will become Darth Vader. It's kind of heartbreaking in just seeing that moment of realization later on in the episode, that he figures out that, or at least this entity figures out that he is not the Anakin Skywalker that he really expected himself to be. But this episode does go through key moments where Ahsoka, as a child, is fighting in her first Clone Wars battle. And she does make a mistake. A lot of people die. You may have seen that in the Clone Wars episodes that begin the series. And then it goes through fog, because a lot of the fog is in place because you can't have like this giant, that doesn't work on the volume. You can't have this giant set piece because also it's very expensive to do so. But also because you're in war, there's always going to be this fog, this kind of smoke, not fog, because of the war that's happening. It looks beautiful. And you can see with all the blaster fire, all the lightsaber hilt hits, the flashes of clone troopers all around, the flashes of their vehicles that they use to get around. You can see it all, and it's beautiful. It's for the budget. And no, I'm not saying because of the budget. Because of the budget, they were forced to do something to cut down on the scale, but they made it so intimate and just really well done that regardless of this is the perfect way to do this, because she's going on a spiritual trip with her old master, the spiritual entity of the master. Let's just call it that, because again, it's not Anakin, and people will always be asking what it is. It's just what she needs to see at the moment. And I do believe that part of that is Anakin, because it's just him, not in another timeline, not in some other time travel way, but it's just kind of the entity of him kind of realizing. And maybe even this is how Force ghosts kind of reach that next plane. Maybe they have to go through something like this, where they do realize what they did was right or wrong, and they get clarity. So while this is helping Ahsoka move on to her next journey, maybe this is, again, what a newly passed person, Jedi, needs to go through to become one with the Force, to accept who they really are, and to then, of course, help people down the line, help the people that need them down the line, who can actually benefit from their knowledge. So I'd really like to think of it like that. And honestly, this can be interpreted any which way that we possibly want. So it goes through the first scene of the Clone Wars. Unfortunately, no Obi-Wan Kenobi, but this is a one-on-one relationship. This is what it needs to be. Then goes to the Siege of Mandalore, and it's a little bit just, every once in a while, like, there are certain things that kind of hit me and make me feel things really, really hard. And it's just that the fact that there is the younger Ahsoka, and then you see Anakin, he's like, I don't remember this war. And Ahsoka says, because it's true, they had already separated. Not that he had passed, because I don't believe he had passed at that time. I believe that there's still some sense of Anakin in Darth Vader, where continually it just becomes more Darth Vader. But it's just like, you can tell he's just like looking around like, I never experienced this because I was not myself at this time. And that kind of got me, just because what could have been? What could have been? What could have been? It's in a moment that could have been a reality. If you had watched the Clone Wars, you would have seen there was a chance that sorry, I just got a haircut. I have hair everywhere. That Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker could have gone with Ahsoka to help, but it just didn't. It didn't happen. Fate tore them away. They went in different directions, but it was really beautiful just to see that. And then they begin fighting again. Anakin ignites his lightsaber, but in this time it's not blue, it's red, and you can see in his face he has the kind of Sith look, those kind of yellow glassy eyes, dead skin. And he pushes her through the fog, and she's now Ahsoka at the age that we know her in the show, older, played by Rosario Dawson again. And he's immediately saying, like, you're living or you're dying. And he's like, okay, you're going to die, because he's really, in this moment, trying to kill her. She disarms him, she wins, and it just goes for him just going like this, with everything looking like a Sith. Goes back to her, goes back to him, and him looking up and giving that classic just Hayden Christensen smile, smirk, that's just like, yeah, that's him, that's the character, that's the realization that Ahsoka's just like, I choose to live, and he gets it. Because earlier on, he was talking about training Ahsoka to be a warrior, and she was saying, is this really what I'm going to train my Padawan, my pupil to be? Just a warrior? And I was thinking, in all of the stories of Star Wars, it's been, you're training somebody to fight with their lightsaber, to do battle with evil, but it's just, what if you just train them to be just the best that they can be as a person? What if there were no fights? What if there were no fights to fight? What if they were just living their days as we live our days? And of course, at Star Wars, there's always going to be something to fight against, but what if there was the opportunity to have a pupil where you just didn't teach them to fight? You remember earlier in the season, Sabine was quickly having to learn how to fight back, because they needed to fight these gray Jedi, these not so evil Sith. And it was just like, now you're thinking about all the people that have been trained. They have to leave their lives, they have to train quickly to do battle with evil, and it's just like, what? I wish there was another option, and maybe the show, maybe something down the line will show us people being trained, but not immediately to fight, but just to train to be better. So Anakin, in a scene where he goes behind her, just goes away. And because she's chosen to live, she and everything kind of is melting away. You'll see liquid going up. And in fact, what had really happened in, like, I guess the truest reality is that she had been knocked off the side of the cliff and was kind of floating, maybe close to death, and this could be like a near-death thing. And it just, she was saved by, I can't remember the robot's name, and oh my god, I'm forgetting everybody's names. But she was saved, and they're trying to figure out exactly how to get to Sabine, to the Grey Jedi, to Ezra. And because their map has been destroyed, but because Sabine kind of imprinted a memory, Ahsoka's able to see exactly kind of what happened, hear what happened. She knows now that she was taken, but she also knows now that they can't follow them with the map, but they can possibly follow them with the Purgle, the space whales, that in a moment of need, you can see them because they fly, they're not in the ocean. They're kind of in the sky, because that's just what we saw in previous episodes. That was perfectly set up. And they get the idea that they will travel with the Purgle to hopefully the destination of where they need to be. And hopefully that's with Ezra. So they take the ship up, they go to the biggest Purgle. Ahsoka tries to speak with them through the Force. It opens its mouth. They fly the ship inside and go. And that's the ending of this episode. And it's another one where it really gives us the perfect ending for one of these beautiful episodes, because maybe we don't like the next part of the story, but we were told such a great, beautiful story here, and we get hope. We get to now talk for an entire week about what exactly we think is going to happen, and we get to make this a perfect scenario for what happens down the line. I think it's going to be beautiful. I think, and I have extreme faith now, that whatever the story is, whether I like it perfectly or not, it's what needs to be told as a story, and I have faith that it will work out. So guys, I love this episode. If you're not watching the show, please watch the show. It's amazing. It's beautiful storytelling. And again, Dave Filoni should control Star Wars. He should dictate what happens with everything, because he markets things well. And I think this is a beautiful show that can work with people on a wide range. And we're now being like gifted as Star Wars fans these things that make sense in a storytelling like path. It just works. Anyway guys, put everything in the comments section below. Don't forget, I'm on Instagram and Threads at M8B9. You can email me at creativenyc2023@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching, guys. It's late. Going to bed soon. See you guys, and I'll see you next time.